Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the first ever moist meter in progress. It's for Valorant, and the reason why this is in progress is because Valorant is currently in a closed beta where you have to play like a little fucking lottery to get a key through streams, which will touch on everything the good and bad about everything surrounding Valorant here, but I will not be assigning it a score since it is a beta and constantly evolving, so it just wouldn't really be fair to give it a score now when the full game down the line may come out and be totally different from everything I've talked about here. It could look like fucking Borderlands 4. So let's just start with the obvious. The first thing people do for Valorant is write it off as just calling it uninspired and lazy because it very clearly does draw from Counter-Strike and other games like Overwatch with the hero abilities, though I'd more compare it to Paladins, but probably only 15 people play Paladins these days, so that reference doesn't really do anything to give you a comparison, but it very clearly does borrow from a lot of things and try and improve them. Yes, the idea itself isn't the most inspired, however it's the only actual competition to Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike has had a monopoly on that entire gameplay genre for a long time now, so I don't know why people are upset that there's competition now. Competition is always great for games because it forces the game to improve, to match the competition. It's a back and forth, a little dick swinging contest. It makes the games get better. If Counter-Strike never has competition, there's no incentive for them to keep listening to the community and trying to make it better, but now that there is competition, there is that incentive to keep the game growing and keep listening. So even if Valorant sucks ass in your opinion, its existence is still good if you're a Counter-Strike fan. And I wouldn't say there's anything lazy about Valorant either, other than the aesthetic, which a lot of it is placeholders, but that's my biggest complaint, is the game I think looks like asshole. Half of the guns just look like carbon copy clones of each other. It's like impossible to tell what gun's on the ground because they just look the exact same unless you bought skin packs or something. The guns are just gross looking and the environments look bad. I just really don't like the art style. It's this weird blend of Team Fortress 2 and a mobile game that it's not growing on me at all. But the gameplay is where it really shines because I think the gameplay in Valorant is extraordinary. It is so rewarding to get a kill and have that little jingle play when you get your first kill, and it just keeps ramping up into this crescendo. Let's say you get a 3K, 4K, or even an ace. By the time you get that 5th kill, it's like a full little orchestra piece hitting you. It's like in Ocarina of Time when you open a chest and you get that really rewarding jingle. You get that for every kill, so it feels great. The gunplay is extremely tight. The hitboxes are very tight. I haven't had like any issues that I can recall with hit reg or anything like that, and it's just a real joy to play. And it's Counter-Strike that is watered down. Most guns have ADS in Valorant, whereas in Counter-Strike it was only a few, so there is things here that appeal to players that are new to the genre or just not very good at it and can't get used to spray patterns. As far as the spray patterns go, there's actual RNG in there, which in Counter-Strike everything has a pattern that you can master. In Valorant, so far with the 80 or so hours I've spent, it seems really fucking hard to control the RNG that comes after about like the 5th bullet, 5th or 6th bullet. At that point, you're just rolling the dice. There's a few things you can do to manipulate it a little bit better, but it does seem like there is just inherent RNG with the spray patterns, which I'm not too big of a fan of. I prefer in Counter-Strike where everything can be learned and mastered to the point where you are a fucking laser beam with every gun for the most part. I don't see that happening with Valorant, at least not with these RNG bullets kind of just fucking cum-shotting out occasionally during your spray. But I really think there is nothing lazy about the gameplay in Valorant. It is very clearly trying to be the best version of Counter-Strike it can be. One thing that I like more in Valorant than CSGO, probably like the only thing I'd say is better in Valorant than in CSGO, is abilities over grenades. And that maybe just be a personal bias because I spent so much time with Counter-Strike back in the day. I'm just so fucking tired of the same grenades and the same angles that you need to spend 100 hours labbing to get the right angle. And just after a while, it's just boring. I'm very fucking tired of the grenades in Counter-Strike, you know, flashing here, smoking there, and always using the same shit. In Valorant, maybe because it's just new, but the abilities feel so fresh with so much versatility, and since there's a bunch of different heroes, agents to choose from, there's a lot of different strategy that can be involved in a team comp. You can mix and match abilities to synergize with one another, and it can always be constantly changing depending on the strategies you want to run. Whereas in Counter-Strike, it is still just the static set of grenades. So I think the abilities offer a lot more fun factor, and in general, a lot more versatility just because there's so much more of it and so much different synergy with each other. That being said, not every agent ability in Valorant is created equal. A lot of them are geared towards just utility. In fact, that all of them, except for one agent, is geared towards utility, Raze. You see a lot of complaints about Raze, and rightfully so. I don't know why the fuck she's even in the game with her current kit. Every single one of her abilities does damage. She just has cluster grenades and a rocket. However, I will say in a patch note, they did address some of these things and they made the grenades better. She used to have 2, now she only has 1 that charges back if she gets 2 kills. So they do have good ways of balancing these things, and they're clearly listening, but I still don't understand the point of why everything she has does damage. The only thing I think fits her kit really well is the satchel and maybe the boombot. The other two, the grenades and the rocket, it just seems like there's no place for it in Valorant when every other ability from the agents is geared towards zone control, vision, or just general utility. But I'd be lying if I said Raze wasn't my favorite agent. She's just mindlessly fun to go in there and toss grenades all over the place, have that shit raining down doomsday over a building because the grenades cluster in the air and split apart and you can just get some cheeky kills that way. It's goofy, it's fun, but I don't think it really has a place in Valorant. That's like the only thing I'd say in the game truly feels a little broken, and they are addressing it, they are listening, which brings me to my next good thing in Valorant's favor. Riot Games has always shown a lot of support for their titles with constant updates. While they might not always get the balancing right, especially when it comes to something like League of Legends, they are constantly issuing hot fixes, patches, addressing things, and they give the games a lot of attention. That is something Valorant is going to stand to benefit from greatly. It's in closed beta right now, and they've already rolled out a patch for Raze and some other problems that were addressed. That is outstanding. That is fucking great. That's the precedent you want to set. Like, we are going to give this game a lot of attention, and we will address these problems. So that is 100% fantastic. But now let's move on to the maps. There's 3 maps in the closed beta, and I think one of them is utter dog shit. I'm talking, of course, about Split. I think Split is just a very bad map. That is my least favorite by far. Even the map with 3 sites is more fun than Split. I actually think the map with 3 sites so far hasn't been too bad, even though on paper it seems ridiculous to have a 3-site map in a game like this. It actually has been working pretty well, and I think it's mainly because of abilities giving you so many more options to hold like that. But Split is just not a fun map to play on. I think it's the weakest map of the 3, and hopefully there'll be some changes they make to it when the full game comes out, because as it currently stands, there's not a whole lot of people that defend Split as a good map because it is so one-sided. Now, I absolutely cannot make this Moist Meter in Progress without talking about Riot's anti-cheat. The anti-cheat has been the most controversial thing about the game, probably the biggest hang-up and biggest sore spot for most players in the world. For those that don't know, Riot's anti-cheat has kernel access to your computer. For those that don't know, that's bad. Without getting into the specifics, that's very bad. Some ordinary gamers, Mudahar, made a great video talking about it, so if you're interested in learning more about why the kernel access for the anti-cheat is a bad thing, check that out. But what I have to say about that is, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I have nothing good to say about that. I'm sure there's other ways to maybe combat cheats, and there's nothing that proves right now that having that kernel access is making it any better than all of the other anti-cheats out there. However, I will say in my experience, I've only come across 2 hackers in this game, and in both games, the game was shut down almost immediately because it had detected a hacker. So it is detecting the hackers, but I mean, the hacks still exist. So, it remains to be seen what they do with this anti-cheat, if they maybe, change it in some way or make it less, fucking ham-fisted into your computer. I don't know, but I don't like the anti-cheat. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to say, yeah, I'm totally fine with it having kernel access, because it's not. That's just very intrusive and just way too invasive. I get why they wanted to make this incredible anti-cheat, because games like Counter-Strike get a whole lot of hacks around them, and they want it to be as competitive and tight and as honorable and honest as possible without people cheating their way to the top. But I think they went way too hard here. I mean, this anti-cheat has access to all your shit. I wouldn't be surprised if it started pulling up your SAT scores mid-game just to shame you in front of the other players, or pull up like embarrassing family photos or some shit. It has way too much control. So I guess just kind of to wrap up here, as in conclusion, I think Valorant is a lot of fun. I used to be a big Counter-Strike player a few years back, but I've totally lost interest in it and just burnt myself out on Counter-Strike. Valorant has reignited that fire in my asshole. I've been really enjoying Valorant, streaming the shit out of it, just having a whole ton of fun playing it and getting better, learning when and where to use the abilities in best ways and most creative ways of using them. It's been a really fun experience so far. It does have its problems, and like I said, I really don't like the way the game looks at all. I do get that a lot of it is just stock placeholders and shit, but even still, it doesn't look good, but it feels fucking great. It's a game that I don't think its fun factor gets conveyed through video. I think it's a game that's fun when you play, but it gets written off if you're only watching. So by having the only way you can get access to the closed beta be through watching, kind of shoots it in the foot a little bit. Yeah, it generates hype for a lot of people, but other people that aren't already a Counter-Strike, veteran, they might not see how it could be fun by just watching a stream on it, which is a bit of a shame. Hopefully they'll release an open beta so everyone can at least try it since it's free to play. And I think a lot of people will be surprised at how fun it is. It does have a lot of problems, but right now I'd say Valorant's probably the most fun shooter I've played in quite a while. I am still a big fan of Rainbow Six Siege, but I've got to say I've been having a lot more fun on Valorant recently. So again, I'm not going to be assigning a score to this since it's a beta and constantly changing, like they just rolled out a new patch. So there'll be no score. These were just the Moist Meter thoughts on Valorant. And when the full game comes out, we'll do a full Moist Meter talking about the entire package that they released. But for now, that's about it. So yeah.
This episode was brought to you by Manscaped.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the Avengers game. So let's just go ahead and spread these cheeks right away. So I want to just get this clear right now. The game is fine. Everything this game has is done well enough to be considered a good game. There's nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't even say this game's lackluster in any one area. But all that being said, I didn't really enjoy my time playing it. Now before you get a super-powered hate boner going, let me go ahead and explain what I mean. So the main thing that I found to be kind of boring was the combat. The combat is serviceable. I'd even say the combat's good in certain cases, but overall it's just extremely repetitive. You're fighting the exact same combination of 3 enemies for the entire duration of the game. Most of the objectives in most of the missions on like side missions and such are just stand on this one plate for like 6 minutes fighting waves. It's just the objectives themselves are fun. The environments are really uninspired. You're never really going anywhere cool or seeing anything cool outside of a couple of really good cutscenes and set pieces in the campaign. And it's just when you're fighting these enemies, it's never really fun. It's just kind of a chore. To me, the combat just feels extremely slow and even a little bit clunky at times. It feels like every character is moving through an invisible layer of thick syrup before they make contact with the enemy. And when you do make contact, it sounds like you just hit them with a wet noodle. The sound design sounds like something out of Looney Tunes, like it's just stock sound effects. There's not like a huge impact or a real satisfying effect or anything. It just seems pretty underwhelming when you do start comboing somebody. Now there is versatility to the combat. There's a lot of ways to mix and match combos and do certain moves and stuff that do make it pretty flashy and cool at times, but overall, it really loses its fun pretty early on. There's multiple skill trees that you drop points into to unlock new moves and different abilities and different ways of approaching fights, but even when you do have almost all of these, it still feels exactly the same as it did within the first hour of gameplay. And some of the boss fights nearly put me to sleep. Like there's this fucking Warbot boss fight where you just go around slapping Vince on its 6 legs and then hitting its eye after you blow up all 6 Vince. Meanwhile, the bot doesn't really do anything. It just lets you keep slapping it around, and sometimes it'll lift a leg up like a dog trying to take a piss. It's just really boring fights. A lot of the boss fights are, at least in my opinion. And just overall, this game, it's not, like I said, the game's not bad. I would never consider this a bad game, but it is passionless. I would say that this is a very uninspired game. This feels like some executives just looked at everything popular with a younger demographic, superheroes, Anthem-style mechanics, factions, bounties like from Destiny. But let's put them all in here and kids will love it. Loot system. People love RPG. Let's throw a little primitive loot system in here. And it's all here, and it's all done well enough that it's serviceable, and it's done well enough that it works well, but it's just not fun. It just feels so underwhelming. And the loot system, I think, is at least kind of cool sometimes just because I love min-maxing. But really, overall, even that wasn't super fun for me. Let me just go ahead and get off of the gameplay and such. Let's just keep talking about all the other areas. The narrative is pretty cliche. The narrative's nothing that's gonna have you fucking blown back into your seat, really thinking hard about life or anything like that. And I actually think the narrative's kind of a little goofy, how people are so upset that they have superpowers. Like, what a fucking dumb problem to have. Man, I'm so mad that now I have fucking super godlike powers. If only someone could take these away so I could go back to getting bullied in high school. Like, that's just a real dumb thing to complain about. I feel like if people got superpowers, they wouldn't necessarily be whining about it all the time. So I didn't really like a whole lot of elements of the narrative. But it's not a bad story. It's not terrible. It's very generic, cliche tropes for superhero stories. And it's nothing terrible, you know what I mean? It's not horrible. It's just a little eye-rolling, and the dialogue, the writing is like the cheesiest, most by-the-numbers dialogue ever written. This actually feels like the dialogue was written by an AI that watched every superhero movie ever made, and then just took bits and pieces from each one, line by line, and threw it into this game. The writing feels like it was made in a day, just by copying everything you've heard from everything else. It's not bad. Again, it's not bad because it works, you know? It's superhero tropes, and it's done well enough where you're like, yep, that makes sense. That about fits here. I will say, though, some of the voice acting feels really phoned in. Like, some of the voice actors they got here, they just feel like they're not even trying at certain points, which I could totally understand because they have the characters talking fucking non-stop. Even if a character's not on screen, you can hear them fucking talking to themselves in another room on your ship. Everyone is always talking at every single second in this game, during combat, during cutscenes, when you're just walking around. Even if a character's dead, they're still talking, like haunting you. There is constant dialogue, so I can understand why some of the voice actors may have got fatigued for some of these lines, but sometimes that'll take you right out of it. Now, there is a multiplayer component to this game, but I don't imagine anyone's going to be losing their shit over it. Is it fun to play with a friend, two superheroes just clapping ass? Yeah, but every game's fun with a friend, and this one's no special exception. This isn't something that's extraordinarily fun with your friends, because it is still doing the exact same tedious chores, but at least now you have a friend to kind of lessen the burden and the boredom of it. So I'm plugging this bad boy into the moist meter now. I'm giving Avengers a 65%. I know with everything I've said that might sound a little high to some people, but again, like I said, I think the game is very well made. I think it is a good game. It's just a game that I really didn't enjoy personally, but I can absolutely see from an objective standpoint that these things work together well enough that a lot of people probably will like it. It's just, for me, the core gameplay loop got so stale so early on, doing the same repetitious, tedious missions, and everything you unlock never really makes you any more powerful. A lot of the loot is kind of interesting, but then a lot of the perks are just pretty samey, and you never really get anything crazy going on with pretty cool builds. It's just, to me, the whole game was just kind of like the most average, okay experience I've ever had. I guarantee in a month I'll probably forget I even played this game or that this game ever even came out. It's just a forgettably average good game. It's just, I don't know, it's just the game is fine. Like, that's like the best thing I can say about it, is the game is fine. I can see a lot of people liking it, it's just I didn't enjoy it very much. I think the game could have really benefited from having a system in place similar to the Arkham series with free flow combat, where things are fucking fast and brutal and just really impactful. But again, there's really nothing negative I can say about the game. It just rode that line of just being so fine that it was just really boring to play. And yeah, that's really about it. It doesn't take a superhero to get a larger-than-life ball-shaving experience in your own home when you use Manscaped products. In particular, I'm talking about the Premium Lawnmower 3.0, the finest craftsmanship and the latest innovation when it comes to ball-shaving science. The Lawnmower 3.0 comes with advanced skin-safe technology, so you're never accidentally hurting yourself in a very sensitive area. You can find the Lawnmower 3.0 in the Perfect Package 3.0 kit, which also comes with ball toning spray as well as a nice crop reviver. Pretty much everything you could need to amp up your male grooming game. And it is just a fantastic kit that I can't recommend enough, and you also get 2 free gifts, which is a shed travel bag and a pair of anti-chafing boxer briefs. So if you're interested in trying Manscaped products, you can go to manscaped.com/moist to get 20% off and free shipping. That's manscaped.com/moist for 20% off and free shipping. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Demon's Souls Remake, a PlayStation 5 launch title. As many of you know, Souls-like games are my favorite games, it's my favorite genre, and Demon's Souls Remake put a wet spot in my dry trousers. This game was absolutely fantastic. I played Demon's Souls a long time ago, but I don't remember a fucking thing about it. I couldn't remember a single character, couldn't remember a single boss battle or anything, and I don't know why. I guess when I beat the game originally, the Men in Black raided my house and hit me with a neuralizer, so I forgot it all, but I came in here, Everything was completely fresh and clean, and I absolutely loved it. There were things that I think are very flawed with the game, but overall, absolutely spectacular, and I think it is the perfect launch title for the PlayStation 5 because it showcases the PlayStation 5 technology beautifully. Graphically, the game is absolutely stunning, just absolutely gorgeous, and there's so much detail on everything. I feel like you could see your character fucking sweating, like individual pores opening up to release a little moisture when it gets too hot in the game. It is really impressive what they are able to do visually with this game. It is absolutely fucking great to look at. And aside from just graphical improvements with the next gen console, the controller here in this game really shines. Demon's Souls works that bad boy out nicely. As I mentioned in the PlayStation 5 moist meter, I thought all that haptic feedback talk, all that mumbo jumbo hocus pocus was just going to be real gimmicky and I wouldn't care. But playing through Demon's Souls, I love that shit. You know, if you swing your sword and it hits a wall, you feel it rattle in your controller, but not just that. If you hit the wall on the right side, you feel it rattle on the right side of the controller, so it's like different levels of vibration that really just immerses you in the experience and makes you feel like the character in the game. If one of those pussy archers shoots an arrow at you and it sails by your head, just narrowly missing your skull, you can hear it on the controller, just air brushing by you, and you can feel a little rumble on there on the direction that the arrow missed you on. It's really fucking cool technology, and I really thought that it shined in this game. Really, everything Demon's Souls Remake does a great job at showcasing what the PlayStation 5 is capable of. The gameplay is, of course, fantastic. From what I understand, it is one-to-one with the original Demon's Souls. Nothing has changed with anything of the bosses, the combat, the fighting, anything. The only changes are quality of life changes, aside from obviously the graphical upgrades, but everything else is completely intact. The only difference being, of course, the artistic changes, and they fix something like the duplication glitch and other like game-breaking bugs like that. Other than that, it's exactly the same as it was in the original game, which I think is a good thing because the gameplay is still super fun. It is still outstanding. There's still a lot of cool builds you can do. I understand that magic builds really rule Demon's Souls. I went with a full strength build using the Dragon Bone Smasher, which is basically just Demon's Souls' version of the Moby huge 3-foot dildo, so I was slinging that meat around, and that was a lot of fun. The game was very difficult in the beginning because I chose an extremely hard path. I went from Zone 1 right into Flame Lurker path, and using blunt weapons and just caveman clubs and shit, playing as Officer Greg, my character, in that zone is a nightmare because everything resists that kind of damage. So, I mean, it was fucking tough, but the struggle was worth it because when I finally did beat Flame Lurker, it felt incredible. It took me somewhere in the realm of 15 or 20 tries, and I finally got it in a run with the Crushed Great Axe. It took me 76 hits and like a full 15-20 minute slugfest, blood, tits, and cum everywhere. 20 minutes, full focus, 76 hits to finally beat the Flame Lurker, and it was a triumphant moment. I just felt on top of the world. The game was just so fun. And it wasn't a hard game after that. Like, once I beat Flame Lurker, it never really got to that level of difficulty again, because then I just started steamrolling with the Dragon Bone Smasher, but it was extremely fun. I love the gameplay. Absolutely love it. A complaint I have about the game, though, is the camera really betrays you super often. This camera will just get stuck in fucking anything. If you tiptoe around the corner, your camera's just gonna like blast in front of your face and go into first person mode randomly sometimes. Like, the camera can be all over the place and a real nuisance. Oftentimes that's one of the hardest boss battles, is with that camera. In addition to that, the hitboxes can sometimes be absolutely nonsensical. Like, a boulder will get thrown at you, the boulder completely explodes, and then you walk over the little rubble and you take full damage as if you just got blasted with that boulder. Even though it had already exploded, it's already like phasing out of reality, but there's still little fragments of stone there and it does the full damage to you. There's just some weird hitboxes in the game, which can definitely be frustrating sometimes. And the last real complaint I have about the game is there's so many sections here where it's just tight corridor fighting. So Demon's Souls doesn't have bonfires, by the way, so you're not getting like checkpoints or anything throughout the mission, and you don't use Estus, you use grass that you have to farm for. It's a consumable healing item, which is a bit of a headache, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. It frustrated me a little bit, but it only added more to the challenge and the scarcity of the resources and options you have for healing. But The thing with the tight corridors really just got on my ass cheeks, just grinded that shit. Because there's so many fights that take place in these tight-ass corners, and I'm slinging around like a 90-pound fucking dragon bone smasher, so I'm constantly hitting the side of the environment, and I only have one option, which is using my heavy attack, which is vertical, and I'll still hit the side without hitting the enemy. Like, I don't know why there's just so many fights that take place in these super tight corridors, like you're just squeezed in this little box, this little hallway, and you fight like 9 enemies. That was frustrating, just how frequently I found myself in those tight spaces. And you don't really have an option in a lot of them. Like, you'll go up a long fucking staircase and you'll fight like Wizard Squidward, and you have to fight him in that like tight space with no other options of leading him elsewhere or anything like that. So just sometimes that would be a big frustrating like headache, having to fight in those kind of situations. But other than that, those are like not major complaints. It didn't really detract from my overall enjoyment of the game. I still absolutely loved every minute of the game. Plugging Demon's Souls Remake into the Moist meter, I'm giving this a 90%. I think it is a fantastic game and the perfect launch title for the PlayStation 5, really. And if I had to put Demon's Souls Remake on a tier list for the Souls-like games, my favorite is still Bloodborne, second place is Dark Souls 1. I'd actually put Demon's Souls Remake at third place. I enjoyed everything about the experience. It's, you know, there's of course the headaches there, but overall, I mean, I absolutely loved it. And then after Demon's Souls would be Dark Souls 3 and then Dark Souls 2 for me. It was just a really good experience. One of the easier Souls games, actually I'd probably say it's the easiest Souls game, but still one of the most fun. That's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Spider-Man Miles Morales. I didn't know if this game was DLC or a standalone game for the longest time until like 5 days ago when I found out, hey Charlie, you fucking idiot, it actually is a standalone game. So that was kind of a nice surprise because I liked Spider-Man on the PS4 even though I don't remember shit about the story. I remember really enjoying the combat and just kind of the whole experience. So I was pretty happy to slap back in the butt plug and get back in the action here in this universe. And I have to say, even though it is a standalone game, it felt like I was just playing DLC. It's an extremely short game. It took me 5.5 hours to beat it start to finish with a couple of breaks in there, and I did like 5 or 6 side missions, which isn't a ton, but it's not like I only beeline the story, and it was really short. Granted, this isn't a full price game, it's $50, but even still, $50 for the amount of content you get here seems pretty steep. Like, it really does feel like DLC. I remember when this got announced, all the gaming outlets were like, hey people, don't fucking get too high of expectations. This is DLC, it's not a standalone. And then it turns out it is actually a standalone. So, I mean, it was confusing with the launch, but it really does feel like it was meant to be DLC. I don't know how all the other side missions went because I only did 5 or 6, but they were really uninteresting. Pretty much all of the side missions were go around the city and listen to sounds to finish a mixtape, go around the city to collect these time capsules, go around the city to fetch this, fetch that, or do these challenges around the city. Like, really boring, uninteresting side content. The only actual meat was the main story, like the main narrative moments. And the city did feel alive though. There were times where like, hey, there's a helicopter gone loose, it's been hacked by some bad guys, I have to go re-hack it and get it back under control, shit like that, which is cool because it makes the city feel alive. But other than that, it's just really boring side objectives to do. So you're not really going to spend too much time doing that, I imagine, unless you're trying to help yourself fall asleep at night. You'll probably just stick on the main story, which there isn't a lot of because it's so short. And I think the length of the story really hurts its narrative. I don't think the game is poorly written. I don't think the characters are poorly written or anything. But because it's so short, everything goes at a breakneck pace. Like, it'll rip your titties off with how quickly this game is moving around. Like, 1 second you're friends with someone, and then 30 seconds later, in the next scene, they're threatening to just rip your fucking face off. They're threatening to murder you. And there's really no build up to that. You never have that emotional investment. For example, when you're faced with a new villain, you're like, oh, who's behind this mask? And then in the next scene, it shows you instantly who's behind that mask. You don't even have 10 minutes to think about it. It just immediately tells you everything and shows you everything because the game is just moving so quick. because it's a very short game, and I think it really suffers because of that. When there's supposed to be emotional moments in the story, they don't really feel impactful, they don't feel like they have any weight, because you didn't really get to grow with the characters or see them together, interact with them or anything. It's all just super abrupt. And I don't think it's because of bad writing or anything like that, or a shitty script. I really do think it's just because it's such a compact game that they tried to put so much into it that they couldn't quite get all the marks they needed to build up to these things and make them feel important. And it feels like this game was really meant to just be a DLC appetizer that eventually got spun into a full game. That's definitely what it feels like. Now, the combat, though. The combat is a drastic improvement over Spider-Man PS4. Even though Spider-Man on PS4 had great combat, this is even better. Significantly better. I loved the combat. The combat never got old. It was super flashy, super fun. It's like Arkham free flow combat, but to the next level. There's so many options. You have different gadgets you can mix and match in your attacks, a lot of combos that you can unleash, a lot of options for approaching the fight. You can do stealth, which I almost never did because it was just more fun to do all of these cool moves and these finishers, and just so much when it comes to combat that I loved about it. You can cancel pretty much everything with a dodge, so you can be like doing some crazy combo dodge and then right there pick up the combo again. It's just beautiful. It really is. The combat shines. The combat is absolutely excellent. Also, in terms of combat, I was a little disappointed with the lackluster amount of like skills you can have. There's only like 10 or 12 total skills, I think. I don't know. It's like 8 per tree. So what is that? 8 times 3. So 24 total skills, I think, if that. And some of the skills are just totally useless. Like, you know, you'll throw a punch and you get an extra 2% damage behind the punch or something. So there's just really not a whole ton of content in the game. There really just isn't. And it's not a full price game, yeah, but $50 still is a bit high for how much you get out of it, unfortunately. Now, one thing I want to say in regards to the story and everything, though, is that every cutscene in this game is absolutely beautiful. I think the game looks fantastic, and I absolutely love the combat cutscenes in particular. They are so goddamn cool. Just so much like acrobatic aerial shit going on, using your webs in all kinds of cool ways in these cutscenes. The QuickTime events I could go without. I don't really care about QuickTime events. Just show me the cool shit. I don't have to feel like I'm behind the wheel there. So I don't, the QuickTime events, I could take or leave them, but the actual content of those cutscenes is so fucking cool. I loved it. It was some really flashy shit. It was really cool. I just want to point that out because I had a big old smile on my face during some of those combat scenes in the beginning. Awesome shit. And the set pieces, like when you're doing like a chase or something, is great. And that brings me to the next thing I want to compliment: the movement. The web swinging in this game, perfect. I know every Redditor in the world likes to bitch and moan and complain about how every Spider-Man game isn't as good as Spider-Man 2's web-swinging mechanics. This one has to be significantly better. It is objectively better. There's no argument you can make for Spider-Man 2's web-swinging being better than this game's. This is the best it has ever been. Moving around the city is so fun, and it is just probably one of the best parts. Like, you never really want to do fast travel in this game. You're always just going to want to swing there because it's just enjoyable. It's just so carefree. You can do little stunts and tricks in the air, and it's just really nice. I really loved it. I loved just getting around this city. I absolutely can't praise that enough. They did a great job with that, and I don't think anyone will be disappointed in that area. There's just no way, because I think it's perfect. This is exactly how the web swinging should be. If they do more Spider-Man games in the future, they just need to copy and paste what they did in this one, because it just works so well. I absolutely loved it. There's a lot I like about the game, and the things I don't like, I really do think are just because the game is so expensive for so little content. It does feel like this was meant to be like a $20 DLC for Spider-Man on the PS4, and they stretched it to a full-price game at a standalone, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I still think the game is good, and the combat is definitely a lot of fun, and even the puzzles are kind of fun too. They're not the most complicated and the most thought-provoking puzzles in the world, but they're pretty enjoyable too, just to solve little things with your webs. But the game is just pretty dry in terms of content for $50. At $20, I'd say, yeah, this is definitely something you'd want to pick up, but 50 I think is a little steep for how much is actually in the game. So plugging Spider-Man Miles Morales into the moist meter, I'm giving this bad boy a 70%. I enjoyed my time with it. It was a very short experience. I don't want to revisit for the side quests because everything I saw was just a bunch of fetch quests, which isn't super interesting to me. I think that was put in there just for padding, so I'm not going to really go back for that. And yeah, overall, it was good though. I did like it, and that's about it. So yeah.
This episode was brought to you by Shudder.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Cyberpunk 2077, the most hyped video game I've ever seen. The hype for this game would have you believe that it was going to change gaming forever. Even before anyone ever picked up the game, they were talking about how it was going to usher in an era of peace and progress for the human species and revolutionize our medical industry in the real world and give us wetter dreams. The hype for this game was an absolute curse for the final product. No matter what CD Projekt Red delivered, it could be the best video game ever made. It was still going to disappoint people who put these incredible, unrealistic expectations on it. But now that the game is finally out, the question begs to be asked, does it live up to the hype? Has gaming truly evolved? Have we entered this new, enlightened era for our species thanks to Cyberpunk 2077? God bless Cyberpunk 2077? The answer is no. This game never stood a chance at reaching those expectations, but that's not to say the game is bad. In fact, it's a good game. I'd even go as far as to call it a very good game. But there's a lot of problems with it, the biggest of course being its performance. I have to talk about that right away. This game is borderline unplayable on PlayStation 4 and just consoles in general. It barely gets above 20 FPS. The bugs are outrageous, not just goofy bugs, but actual game-breaking ones where missions will just not work and you'll have to go through hoops to try and make the game fucking function. It is a disaster in terms of its performance. It is the buggiest game I have ever played at launch. Aside from something like the Culling 2, but that's not really fair because you can't call the Culling 2 a buggy game considering the only glitch that game had was the fact that nobody bought it so the games couldn't start. It wasn't really a performance thing, just no one wanted that piece of shit. But this game is absolutely disastrous with its performance. Even on PC, I encountered so many problems. Missions I couldn't start, NPCs that wouldn't spawn. I had to save load multiple times and try tons of different ways of trying to make a single NPC spawn so I could start a side quest. Had to fucking set up a Rube Goldberg machine like, oh, maybe if I set up my car to self-drive itself to me, and then I save load, and then hop in the car, maybe then the NPC will spawn. I just had to come up with all kinds of like theory-crafted scientific hypotheses to make the fucking NPC spawn to start some of these quests. It was really frustrating. There's a genuine problem with this game and its performance. It doesn't really run that well. Even on like the best settings on the best PC, you're still going to have FPS drops. You're still going to encounter so many glitches. It's crazy. I am actually shocked at the state that this game is in on launch. Now, that aside, let's actually talk about the game once you can actually play it. It's good. I do like it. I think the narrative is great. I think most of the characters are very well written and very interesting. I absolutely love the world. The universe here in Cyberpunk 2077 is not only visually breathtaking and one of the best looking games I've ever seen in terms of its graphics and its art style and just visuals in general, but it just feels alive. As you're exploring Night City, you're going to encounter a ton of different shit. People asking for help. You know, there's a dude out there who's burnt his dick trying to get a dick augmentation, so now you have to drive him to the clinic so he can repair his penis before it burns itself off. There's just so much to do, and there's just so many things to encounter and just explore in the world. It really does feel alive. It's not like you're just wandering around a barren wasteland with no one in it, nothing to do, and just putting fingers up your asshole as you wait for the next side quest or main quest. There's just tons of tiny things you can do around the world, and I really appreciate that. The universe, the world, it is absolutely 10 out of 10 in that department. Great. The game is beautiful to look at. The design choices are great. I love the aesthetic of the game. I can't talk enough about how much I enjoyed that. And to complement all of it, you have great soundtrack. Every fucking song in this game is a banger. It really is. I didn't hear a single song that came on that I was like, damn, that shit is stinky. It's not good. I was always like, fuck, turn that shit up. I don't care if I get DMCA'd on Twitch. That's a great fucking song right there. The soundtrack in this game is so good. The score is great. They crushed it in that department as well. But now, we're going to get on to some of the things that I think are a bit of a shortcoming for it, even aside from just the massive glaring problems with performance. I think the gunplay is super stiff. I think it's clunky. I think it feels like it's straight out of 2009. It is not the best gunplay. It's not tight. It's very floaty. I just didn't really find myself liking the gunplay that much. And the guns themselves I think are cool and pretty imaginative, but the main differences between guns are just stat changes. You'll get different categories of weapons, but it doesn't really change that much because every weapon kind of functions the same. And throughout my playthrough, I played on hard, and I never really encountered any times where I was like, damn, I need to mix and match my guns here to suit the enemies I'm facing. You basically just choose whatever gun has the highest damage output as just base DPS, instead of like, oh, I'm going up against robots, I should look for electrical damage elementals or anything. You never have to worry about that. You just choose whatever has the highest number like a fucking caveman. So I didn't like the gunplay. It didn't feel that great. There are a lot of options when approaching combat, such as hacking. You can scan enemies and quick hack them, which can do things like overheat them or turn off their eyesight for a second or make them forget they're in combat, which is all pretty cool, but it's just a novelty. It doesn't really do much to help you. It's kind of pointless because in the time it takes to hack them, you could have just killed them with a gun or melee. I spent the majority of the game going through a melee build. I went for max coolness. There's a lot of perks and a lot of attribute points that you allocate in the game, and I went for the coolness category, which involves stealth and something called cold-blooded, which is passives that you stack up to give you other bonuses. I didn't really use stealth. Stealth was pretty boring, but the cold-blooded was pretty cool, and it worked really well with my melee build, so I went through the whole game just going absolutely just straight fucking wild on him. I had an electric baton and I just started one-shotting some of the big bosses towards the end and just bending cheeks over and putting both fists in their asshole. Melee build was pretty fucking great, and coupling my good weapons and good perks with good cyberware augments. Cyberware is another thing that you can be upgrading your character with, which is things that you'll find out in the world and from Ripper docs where you can add them to your character. That'll give you things like a double jump if you put that on your legs. It can give you other things like gorilla arms and mono wire, all kinds of different things that kind of change the way your character plays. And I do like cyberware a lot. But when it comes to the actual perks, I think a lot of the perks are really uninspired. It's just flat percentage increases. There's a few that do change how some of the things function fundamentally, but for the most part, the perks that you're getting are just percentage increases, which is a little boring. I would have liked to see a little more creativity from some of the perks instead of just, hey, putting a point in here gives you 5% bonus damage with blunt weapons. I would have liked to just see a couple other things that would change it up a bit. But there's so many things you can put points into. I understand that would just be also unrealistic to ask of them, so it's not a huge complaint, just a little nitpick there. I do like how much there is that you can play around with. There's a lot of things you can find. You can upgrade your weapons through finding crafting materials in the world, going to vending machines, scrapping some soda cans, get some parts, upgrade your weapons. Like, you're going to be doing a lot of min-maxing if you care about a really great build and just being overpowered fucking badass, traveling the night city. There's a lot you can do to min-max, and I like that. But again, I still do feel like the actual gameplay with guns and even melee to a certain extent is just very stiff and a bit outdated, and you're going to encounter glitches when doing that. Oftentimes when running my melee build, I'd run into a glitch where I'd beat someone to death and just absolutely club the shit out of them, clobber them, give them the old whopperoony, and then I can't sprint for the rest of the mission. I'd have to like force load a save in order to get the ability to sprint back, and it was just a real headache. Things that are out of your control and just bugs that really shouldn't be here. Also, sticking in terms of gameplay here, the AI is sometimes godlike in this omniscient super being that's able to know exactly where you are and just smell your farts from across the map and hunt you down like a rabid animal. They'll be shooting you through cover, curving bullets around the pillar that you're hiding behind and just popping a full round in your dick hole without you even being able to see them. And then some other times, the AI is the dumbest shit you've ever seen in the world, where you have to wonder, is the game even working anymore? The AI will be looking right at you while you're crouched. You can be in front of them, touching their shins, giving them a back massage, and they won't be alerted to your presence. So the AI is just really inconsistent with its difficulty. Again, I stayed on hard the whole game, and it was never really that challenging to begin with, but sometimes you'd have moments where you're just getting one shot from someone that you never saw, and they're using like a fucking slingshot or like shooting spitballs out of a straw, and they're one-shotting you at full health. And then other times you can take 1,000,000 bullets because they're like stormtroopers and can't hit you, or they just don't even fucking see you because they're just standing there on patrol with their eyes closed. It was just all over the place with its difficulty. So the gameplay really is probably one of the weakest parts about the game, of course, putting aside performance issues. Now, let's talk about the length of the game, because I see that being a complaint for a lot of people. 8 years for only 15-20 hours, ridiculous shit like that. The main missions, I finished the game in roughly 30 30-ish hours in total, and I did quite a few side missions, but I'd say the main missions probably did take me around like 18 hours or something like that. And the main missions were very good. It's a lot of dialogue, and for a lot of people that's a big turnoff all of a sudden, or at least they pretend it is. I remember when everyone was losing their fucking minds over how perfect Red Dead Redemption 2 is, and I'd say that had far more scenes of just dialogue than this game has. So I don't know why that's a complaint all of a sudden, but keep in mind, yes, the main missions have a lot of dialogue, it's a lot of exposition, but I think it's all good. I think it's all well written. When it's not glitching out, because oftentimes during these fucking cutscenes and during the dialogue, you'll have people shouting a million lines at you because the dialogue's overlapping, so you have 9 conversations going when you're trying to get the fucking narrative fed to you, so you have no idea what's going on, so you have to reload in order to get the actual lines delivered at the right time, as opposed to 9 lines overlapping. So, but again, that's just another fucking bug in this game that happens way too often. When you're actually getting the narrative, though, I think it's good, it's well written, it's engaging, the story's good, the plot's nice, and the ending that I got, I thought it was a happy ending. I got a very happy ending, but it was a bit weak. There were a lot of things that were unresolved, and from what I saw of the other endings, none of the endings are all that great. Which isn't the biggest deal in the world, because the whole journey there is good, and I really liked it, especially Johnny Silverhand, and I see a lot of people calling out Keanu Reeves' acting, and admittedly, a lot of times it is flat. Like when he's supposed to be angry, he doesn't really sound angry, but it's Keanu Reeves, and I think it's still a very good performance for the most part, because it makes you care about the character, and I just like Keanu Reeves. I can't say anything fucking bad about Keanu Reeves. I still liked it, and Johnny Silverhand still is a cool character, but anyway, I keep getting off topic. The narrative is good. The main missions are good, but mostly dialogue. You will be just mainly experiencing dialogue when doing main missions, and yes, there is about 18 hours worth. The real meat of the game comes from the side quests and the side jobs and all the other missions that aren't with the main. This is where most of your character development is going to happen. This is where most of your bonding with the characters is going to happen. And this is also where some things can play into the ending. For example, I did a side quest line that allowed me to access some certain things in the ending that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So I think the side missions are probably the best part of the game. I found those to be extremely high quality, very interesting, and really got me to understand more about this very interesting cast of characters. So I think the side quests are spectacular, and there's a lot more action in those. It isn't just shooting once every 30 minutes in between dialogue. There's a lot more going on in the side quest than I'd say go on in the main quest in terms of action and shit. But I don't think it's a short game. I don't know why people are criticizing it. There's so much content here. There's a lot of meat in here. And especially if you care about min-maxing, there's so many cyberware augments and perks that you're going to want to access and points you want to put in certain places. Like, there's a lot. There is a lot of juice in this juice box. So I don't know where everyone's saying 8 years for like no content. I don't know where that's coming from. They clearly haven't played it or didn't really care to, actually play most of it. They just beelined the main story and did it on easy mode, game journalist mode, because it is not a short game. It really isn't. And overall, I'd say it is a good game, but I wouldn't call this a great game. I enjoyed my time with it. I didn't have crazy expectations of it going in. This is right around what I was expecting, so I was happy. In fact, this is better than I was expecting, so I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest. So plugging Cyberpunk 2077 in the moist meter, I would be giving this game an 80%, but I genuinely just can't justify it being that high when it's in this broken of a state. So I'm going to have to give this game a 70, because there is actual game-breaking problems with it. It is borderline unplayable on some consoles. Like, that's not acceptable. They should have put this baby back in the oven and given it more time to cook. Should have marinated a bit longer to iron out the bugs. I know everyone hates delays and people fucking called in sick to work for a month just to play it, but they should have fucking delayed it again, because there's a lot of glaring issues with this game. So I think a 70% is right in line with what it deserves in its current state. Hopefully all those problems will get solved down the line, because I do think it is a good game that I do think a lot of people would like if they weren't getting so frustrated with all of the broken parts of it. So yeah, Halloween may be over, but that doesn't mean the horror has to stop there. Today I want to talk about a service called Shudder. Shudder is the largest collection of acclaimed horror movies and shows delivered right to your favorite devices, like the Netflix of horror. Shudder is a service that costs $5.99 a month or $56.99 for a year, and you get access to the largest curated selection of horror and thrilling series and movies. Now, most of you know I love horror movies, and I know of pretty much every single one of them. If a 15 16-year-old in a high school somewhere made a horror movie, I've probably seen it. But Shudder was actually able to throw me a few curveballs, and I actually found a few movies I'd never even heard of on the service. So it really does have an incredible collection of horror movies and series, and I really thought that was super impressive. Of course, watching the horror movies and series on Shudder is an ad-free experience, and it really does go to pretty much every device you could imagine. So if you want to get started streaming the best horror, thriller, and supernatural content, Shudder's expertly curated collection of titles include Tigers Are Not Afraid, One Cut of the Dead, Revenge, and the Creepshow TV series, which is produced by Greg Nicotero, and based on the famous films by George Romero. So if you're interested, if you're a horror fan, you can try Shudder for free for 30 days by going to shudder.com and using promo code MOIST. That's SHUDDER.com using code MOIST for a free 30-day try. That's it. See ya.
This episode is brought to you by Raycon.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the new Yakuza game, Yakuza Like a Dragon. So, I'm not the most seasoned veteran when it comes to this franchise. The only one I really played through was Song of Life, but I really like that game and I really fucking loved this one. I'm gonna go ahead and rip the band-aid off right now and pull my pants down to hit you with the truth. I haven't even beaten this game yet while I'm moist metering it, which is a world first for the prestigious moist meter. Typically, I'll go start to finish through every game that we moist meter, but this one I'm making an exception just because I love it so much. I wanted to moist meter it right now. There is so much content in this game, it would make your titties spin, and I'm doing pretty much all of it. I've done every side quest so far because the side quests are really interesting, the characters are interesting, and the writing is so good. And this is one of the rare games that actually makes me laugh. I don't think comedy really lands in most video games, but in Yakuza, this shit is straight slapping. A lot of the side quests have some very serious elements to them, but a lot of comedy as well. And I absolutely love doing them, so I've done all of them, not because I want to level up and get stronger or get good gear, but just because I love the storylines and characters in them, and they put a big goofy smile on my face. Like last night I just got a new pound mate that happens to be a crawfish that can help poison the enemies. For those that don't know, I'll go ahead and explain some more mechanics. There's something in the game called a pound mate where you can basically do a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire phone a friend, where you pay to have either like some jacked guy come in and just beat the shit out of the enemies to help you out, or you get some goofy ones like a diaper-wearing adult man and a crawfish and shit like that. It's just so much. There's so much to do. You collect pound mates. They also have like a Pokemon minigame where every enemy you fight is called a Sujimon, and you get them in the Suji decks and you get to read about them. It's just, there's so much. I fucking love it. Now, this isn't a game that's going to be for everybody, though. This game is mainly watching cutscenes and reading dialogue. Granted, the cutscenes and the dialogue are absolutely fantastic. It's a straight banger. But for a lot of people, that's going to be slow and uninteresting, I imagine. And the gameplay as well, it's turn-based gameplay. It's turn-based combat, which is a first for the series. And I like turn-based combat, but I know I'm like one of only 5 people left in the world who do. Not many people like turn-based combat, so I know that's going to be a huge turnoff for a lot of people as well. But for me, I like it. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's super stylized. Like, it never gets old doing, like, Nanba's homeless bad breath attack or something to debuff an enemy and then hit him with fire where you're spitting alcohol at an open flame to light him on fire. Like, I think it's great. I really do. I have a lot of fun with the combat, but I know that's going to be a huge sore spot for a lot of elite gamer barbarians out there. And I understand that, but I've always liked turn-based combat, and I think it's done well in this game. And there's a lot of depth to it as well, even outside of just like gear upgrades and shit like that, min-maxing your build. There's a lot that you can do with the characters with something called jobs, where you can pretty much fundamentally change how they function in battle. So let's say you want to take Ichiban from a baseball bat-wielding madman to a breakdancing demon. You can change him from hero to breaker, where then he becomes a breakdancer who all of his attacks do breakdancing things and do buffs and shit. It's just, there's a lot of depth to the combat so far, and I'm sure it's only going to get deeper as I continue to get deeper inside of this beautiful butthole of Yakuza Like a Dragon. I love the game. Like, I really do. I have zero complaints about it. I know it's not a game for everybody, I get that, but I am absolutely enjoying the shit out of it. And I love the story. You play as Ichiban, a well-meaning 42-year-old virgin, former Yakuza, who, after having some unfortunate events transpire, finds himself excommunicated from the Yakuza and homeless. And it's all about him making homeless friends and rising back to the top to try and become the hero he's always wanted to be. At least that's the story so far, and I love it. Every character that's introduced is great. Every fucking cutscene that comes on is great. I will say the game's not the best looking. I don't think the cutscenes are going to blow you away with their graphical fidelity and visuals, but they are just so stylized and so fun to watch that I don't think anyone's going to have a huge issue with that. But it's probably worth noting. The only actual complaint I have about this game is going from point A to point B in the world is sometimes extremely tedious because there's so many Sujimon random encounters that you'll fight. So you'll just be walking down a street and you'll get one encounter with two homeless people, you beat the shit out of them, then you walk 2 more steps, and then all of a sudden you're getting attacked by a streaker who's flashing his dick and ass in your face and you have to fight him. And then you take 2 more steps and then there's a whole mob of people that were sunbathing and punks that you have to fight through. It's just you get so many encounters, and yeah, you can run away from them, but it's still time consuming and still becomes a bit of a headache because it's just trash mobs that don't even really give you a good reward for just blasting through them. So I just think and I'm sure there's ways to get around it with like a rappel or something, but just right now that's the only sore spot I have, which isn't even really a big complaint because the combat is still fun. It's just there's so many fucking random encounters, it gets a little wacky. Now I'm playing the English dub version, which is going to make a lot of people vomit because I know that there's that superiority complex from the English sub elitists, but I think the dub is great. It's the perfect blend of good voice acting and goofiness. Like, I think the English dub is absolutely fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But I imagine, yeah, maybe English subs is better, but still, I'm having a good time with the dub. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this into the moist meter now. I'm giving Yakuza Like a Dragon a clean 90%. I really like it. I don't have any complaints about it. I know there's a lot of things about this game that a lot of people won't like, but shit, I fucking love it so far. Every little crevice of this game I'm exploring, I'm putting my finger in every possible orifice of this game's universe. I love everything about it. I really do. No real complaints, but it is a game that's not going to be for everybody. It is a slow burn. There's a lot of times where you're probably just listening to dialogue for upwards of 30 minutes or more. And for me, that's fine because I think it's well written and enjoyable, but for some other people, that's going to be a big fucking turnoff, and I get it. It's that special time of year again. There's a big holiday right around the corner. And what better gift to give someone you care about than the gift of high-quality wireless earbuds? I'm talking Raycon. Raycon earbuds are comfortable, they're easy to set up, convenient, seamless Bluetooth pairing. Raycon wireless earbuds sound just as amazing as the other top audio brands, but coming in at half the price. 6 hours worth of playtime, nice and compact, snug fit. It's great for just staying active because it's nice wireless, it's not going to fall out, it's not going to get in the way. I always use it for working out in particular, and it's just a great gift because it's something that people can use every single day. So if you're interested in getting yourself a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds for this holiday season, you can go to buyraycon.com/moist to get 20% off your order. That's buyraycon.com/moist for 20% off. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Resident Evil 8 Village. I'm a huge fan of RE7, recently replayed the game start to finish on stream and loved it even more the second time around. So I was excited for this new game, and I want to make this clear right now. I'm just going to drop my trousers and immediately hit you with the truth. This is not a horror game. This is really nothing like what you saw in Resident Evil 7. This is an action thriller with an emphasis on action. There was a statement released from Capcom recently. This is not me putting words into their ass. I am telling you what they said. They said that Resident Evil 7 was too scary, so they didn't want this game to be very scary. And they absolutely succeeded there, because there is almost no attempts to build tension or really anything of that nature. It is high-octane, nuts-to-butts action from start to finish. And different people are obviously going to have different tastes. A lot of people said that this is their favorite Resident Evil game because it's so action-oriented. For me personally, I like the game, but I much preferred the approach Resident Evil 7 took. I really enjoyed that one far more than this one, but this isn't a bad game by any means. This game is very clearly not trying to be a horror game, which is fine. However, I do need to bring something up, and this will be a minor spoiler, like a very minor one. There's one section in the game that everybody points out during the stream. Everyone was screaming it, "Charlie, you're so fucking wrong. This is absolutely a horror game. You just haven't gotten to Dollhouse yet." And then I finally get to Dollhouse, and I'm there just fucking arms in the air wondering where the scary is. It's like I had ordered an action game with a side of horror, and they forgot my side. It was not scary. It is very different from all the other sections because it does take a different approach. It dials back the action and puts the focus more on slowly exploring and puzzle solving, which is fine. It's not like I hated it, but it was probably the weakest part of the game. It didn't have any horror, unless of course you have a fear of babies, which I guess a lot of gamers do, or a fear of a few dolls at the end of it. Like, for me, I don't understand why people thought it was so scary, but obviously people are going to feel differently about it. I wanted to point that out because it's the only section in the game that's different from all the others where it's all about action. In that one section, it does try a little bit to unnerve you. I just didn't think it worked even a little bit. And I wanted to get that out right now because I already know there were people typing in the comments he must have skipped Dollhouse or forgot Dollhouse or something. No, I didn't forget it. It just wasn't fucking scary. Resident Evil 8's scariest moment is Resident Evil 7's weakest moment. It's just, it wasn't that great in my opinion. I just wanted to get that out right now. Now, I do want to focus on the good things about the game because overall, I very much enjoyed my time with it. I think the game is absolutely beautiful. Visually, I love the design of the world. I love this whole gothic approach, and I really love Lady D. Most of the characters I thought kind of fell flat except for Lady D. And everything about the entire opening section, like really the first 25% of the game, maybe, where you are in Lady D's castle and her domain, you're learning about her and everyone in that area without any spoilers, of course. I'm not going to give anything away, but you're learning about interesting characters and you're exploring a very interesting setting in the castle. And that is when the game is at its best. Lady D is obviously the poster child of this game, but Lady D is a very much sideline character. She is not front and center. She does not have a big role to play in this game. It's extremely misleading if you're going into this expecting her to be like a big part of it. She's absolutely not, but she is the best part of it. Her entire section, best moments of the game by far. From there, it doesn't really reach that same level of quality. Not that the other sections are bad, but it just gets a bit weaker, and then towards the end it is just all about putting a ton of enemies in a small room and making you fight, which I didn't like all that much. The gameplay is not bad. It's a little clunky, but not horrible or anything. Definitely playable, and it is enjoyable. But when you've killed like your millionth zombie after they've eaten 20 bullets to the skull, you just can't help but roll your eyes the next time you have to do it 10 seconds from the last one. It's such a huge emphasis on shoot, 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 and that's it for most of the gameplay loop. There's not many puzzles to solve. There's really none of that. It's mainly just about collecting things and then bringing them back to the original spot. And throughout that, you're just fighting. However, in Lady D's area, it was really well done where there was a blend of fighting and just genuine exploring of an interesting area. Everything else wasn't really like that. I just really can't praise the Lady D section enough, and I know that's why they focus so much on that in the marketing and the demos, because that is absolutely the strongest part of Resident Evil 8 Village, is everything involving her in that entire section. Now, I do want to talk about the story. Overall, I thought the story was kind of weak. Not bad. I don't think the story was terrible, at least not until you get towards the end. Again, no spoilers, but Jesus Christ, does everything get real fucking messy. But I didn't think the story was bad, you know? It's a very simple premise, and you're learning a lot of things about some goofy characters, but some of them are pretty interesting, like Lady D. I can't stop bringing her name up because she's really the highlight of the game for me. She's definitely the most interesting, but there are other characters that you do want to learn more about, and whether or not you do learn about them, I won't spoil, but, you know, you might not. And that's okay, I guess, because I do like the design of them and their own little areas, which is good. There's a lot to explore, there's a lot to find, which is nice. But I just really think the writing in this game is laughable at times, especially in the beginning and at the end. The dialogue is so incredibly goofy. This is not a minor spoiler, this was in the demo. When a character dies in front of Ethan, Ethan says, "Oh no, why does everyone keep dying on me?" As if he was delivering it in a Tommy Wiseau movie. "Oh, hi Mark, why is everyone dying on me?" Like, it's so bad. Some of the lines are so incredibly bad, and Ethan in this game is such an unlikable, wet fart of a character. He makes the dumbest decisions. He's just not a good character. He is really not good at all in this game. They did Ethan dirty here. Ethan is a hard character to root for. So definitely come into this game and expect some really eye-rollingly awful dialogue. Like, not even like charmingly cheesy, just like bafflingly dumb that makes you question what the fuck you're even playing. And during the stream, a lot of people were criticizing the voice acting, but I truly don't think it's voice acting that was the problem here. I really think it was the script, because again, the dialogue at points is just super bad. Like, edgy, 12-year-old edgy, like, I'm 12 and this is what I think is edgy kind of shit. Not even like edgy, just like a child's version of what they think is edgy. Like, for example, when I catch you, I'm gonna rip out your intestines and wear them over my mouth like a mustache. Like dumb lines like that. I don't think voice acting was really a problem. Yes, there was a couple characters that I thought the performance was a bit weak, and I'm like, damn, that was probably their first take and they sounded distracted. But it's not overly common, you know? It's not a lot of characters, and I don't think it's a problem. It really is just the dialogue being on a really goofy level. But again, just I keep getting hung up on the negatives because there is a lot of things that I think this game did a lot worse than Resident Evil 7, but I do like a lot of the things they did as well. For example, I like Duke. I think Duke is a good character. I like the being able to just shop so easily, and money was super abundant. I played through on standard because hardcore just didn't seem worth it to me. Everything's just a real bullet sponge on hardcore from what I've seen. So I did standard. Money wasn't a problem. I was able to buy things and feel like a badass for most of the game, even, well, at least until Ethan would say something stupid. And since there was such a huge emphasis on gunplay, I would like to actually commend them on that. I think this is probably some of the tightest controls Resident Evil has had with the gunplay. You're able to switch weapons super quickly, able to, you know, take pop shots, run around, strafe a little bit. I think they really did a great job with at least refining the gunplay to fit in a more action-oriented game like this. So I think they did a good job there. And I think I do need to mention this since everyone brings up playtime, especially when it comes to Resident Evil games. The game took me 7 hours and 10 minutes to complete. I'm totally fine with the runtime of this game. I don't think it overstays its welcome. Like I said, I had an overall fun time, a positive experience with the game. Obviously, I pointed out a lot of things that I think weren't great, but that doesn't mean that it made the experience miserable or anything. I enjoyed it, and I think 7 hours was really the perfect length of time to stay in this universe. And I do like the setting, and I like everything about where it takes place and some of the things that happen. So I did enjoy it, and it never really dragged. This was extremely intense from start to finish. It's just constant action. The pacing is breakneck, and for a lot of people, they love that. I enjoyed it. I still prefer Resident Evil 7, but I totally see why people would prefer this approach to Resident Evil over a slower one like 7. Overall, though, let's just plug this into the moist meter. I'm giving Resident Evil 8 a 75%. I think it's good, it's fun. I wasn't super disappointed or anything. I did enjoy my time with it, and yeah, that's about it. Now it's time to talk about Surfshark VPN. Having a VPN in this day and age is extremely important, just for general safety, privacy, good practice. There's no reason to be sharing your data with companies or prying eyes. There's just absolutely no reason for it. We're not cavemen. We have the technology to stay safe around the internet, and Surfshark VPN offers a very strong VPN to help with that. They have numerous features that are extremely helpful, such as the whitelister, which allows specific apps and websites to bypass the VPN, which is great for mobile banking. They also allow you to connect Surfshark VPN to unlimited devices, so you can use this on pretty much everything that you could imagine and protect as many devices as you'd like all at once. And then, of course, there's the ability to hide your IP, which is extremely important because why bother sharing your IP when you don't have to? If you're interested in trying Surfshark VPN and being safer online, you can go to surfshark.deals/penguin. Use code PENGUIN for 83% off of a 2-year plan and 3 extra months for free. Or just click the link in the description below. It's code PENGUIN at surfshark.deals/penguin, and you get 83% off a 2-year plan and 3 months for free.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'll go ahead and put my meat on the table right away. I think the Pokemon games for the last 6 or 7 years have been really lazy. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, a blatant, disrespectful cash grab, and Sword and Shield to me is the worst the series has ever been. I was, however, very excited for this game because for the first time in what feels like 20 years, Game Freak has finally tried something different with the Pokemon formula. They didn't just go into the office, hit Control-C, Control-V, copy and paste like they have been. They finally did try to, at the very least, change it up a bit, and I very much appreciate that. However, with that being said, this game has a lot of glaring issues and problems that hold it back from being a great game. So let's just go ahead and get into it. I want to get all my compliments out of the way right now, the things I like about the game. I like that it's finally changing things up. It's a more open world experience now. It is a third-person perspective where you really feel like you contribute to the Pokemon adventure. In the boss fights, you directly fight the bosses with your Pokemon. You throw bombs to calm them down and then weaken them to summon your Pokemon to fight them. Or you could forego using Pokemon entirely. I went full Pokemon list for my boss runs because I actually found it to be more fun and actually faster to just kill it with bombs. And yeah, I really like that. I like that there's actual boss fights in here that have real mechanics to them. Sometimes you get like almost a bullet hell experience, but for Weenie Hut Jr. level, but it's still enjoyable. You get a dodge that has iframes on it, you throw bombs at it, and it just feels like you actually get to participate with your Pokemon instead of just sending them out there to get their ass beat on your behalf. So I enjoyed that quite a bit, and I do love the idea of being able to explore the world freely and capture Pokemon at your own whim and research them. I think it's a great idea and concept, just the execution wasn't quite there for this one. I feel like if Game Freak tries to refine this formula going forward, they can really find something super special with the concept. I think it lends itself really well, and it's something I know fans have been wanting for a long time because it's fun. To explore a world inhabited by Pokemon, seeing them interacting with each other is something that people really want, and unfortunately it's just not fully realized in this game. Instead, in this game, all the Pokemon are like fucking statues that just stand in the grass, and then if they see you, they jog at you a little bit. So it just doesn't really feel like they're even really alive, just these soulless husks that just exist for you to research and catch. But the idea is there. This is supposed to be compliments, and I already just fucking tossed in a complaint. My apologies for that, but I really do love the concept of this game, and I know if they don't just abandon this formula, they can make something truly special out of it going forward. There's also a lot of quality of life changes they added to this game that I think really improve the overall experience, such as being able to change moves on the fly, being able to go to camps to craft and create new Pokeballs, and everything's just a lot more streamlined, and it makes the experience more fast-paced when you actually get out to things. So you're not spending a whole lot of time like forgetting moves or anything, you just change them whenever you really want to back at a camp. And you can even learn some other moves from a trainer. I also do love the addition of the strong versus agile style, which switches up the both power of an attack if you go strong, as well as the speed of an attack if you go agile, and it changes up the order and the strategy. So yeah, overall, I feel like they added a lot of things here that really made the game better. It's not fully fleshed out. So let's go ahead and get into the complaints now, the things that are, I think, objectively wrong with this game that even the most diehard of fans will agree with me on. The open world, while great in theory, is extremely bland and empty in this game. It looks like this is the Pokemon world after it just experienced 3 nuclear winters. Everything is so barren and lifeless. The Pokemon that inhabit it, you can only ever see like 3 at any given time because the draw distance is such dog shit, and all they do is stand there waiting for you to throw a Pokeball at them or ask them to battle with you. It really feels like I'm playing Fallout Pokemon Edition. It is just so empty and dead. In the art direction, this is of course what everyone critiques. It's bad because the game just doesn't look good. Yes, I understand it's a Nintendo Switch. It's silly to expect like next-gen graphics, fucking 4K, ultra chakra vibrating, surround sound, visuals that'll melt your goddamn eyes and make you come. I get that you can't expect that from the Switch because it even struggles to play fucking mobile games half the time. But there is so much you can do with good art direction if they only tried. Look at Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is a beautiful game, and it's because of how much time and effort they put into the visuals of it with its art. Not necessarily like incredible graphic fidelity and using state-of-the-art NASA computer chips to make the graphics really fucking sing to your soul. They just used really smart, clever art direction, art style. Pokemon Legends of Arceus, it feels like they're using Unity stock assets half the time. Like, just look at the water. The water in this game is worse than Nintendo 64 water. They didn't try at all. And the lava, when you do get to the point where you go to a volcano, I guess spoiler alert, the lava, like, moves sometimes. Like, most of the time when it's supposed to be, like, flowing lava down the volcano, it just stops, and it just stays there. It's like they're using JPEGs that they're moving around in Photoshop. It is very lazily done when it comes to its visuals. They did the absolute bare minimum, and every single zone in this game is identical to the first zone. The actual zones don't switch up other than just having snow on the ground sometimes, or where they're placing their water. Everything else is the same. The exact same terrain that you keep exploring, the only difference is the Pokemon that inhabit it. However, even though the world is super empty and lifeless, I do enjoy exploring it with the mounts that you get. I don't want to spoil what they are, but you do get something akin to a horse where you can gallop around and it's fast, you can fly around, and you can climb pretty much anything in the game. So I do like the freedom to explore. Exploring was always enjoyable and very fast. It wasn't like it was a tedious process to get around, and I appreciated that. But what I didn't appreciate was the game spitting in my mouth with the research system. That shit just felt like I was getting a wedgie or like getting a fucking swirly in the high school locker room. I hated it. It was fucking grueling. And you have to get a certain amount of stars in the research system to progress the main story. But basically, in a nutshell, the research system is catch more Pokemon, battle more Pokemon, you get more research points, and then as you do that, you can get stars back at the Jubilife Village. And as a concept, I think it's a good idea because that's fun. However, they have you doing very specific things in order to farm that research. So it's not just catching and it's not just battling. You have to battle them using certain types, you have to see them using certain moves, and you have to defeat them in certain ways or at certain times, and it just made it such a chore. Like I said, I think the idea is there, it's just so basic and so not fun in the game right now. And that's how I feel about a lot of the game. The ideas are there. The potential is there. It's just Game Freak didn't have the talent to get it right on their first try. And I guess there's no real shame in that since it's the first time they've really branched out from their same formula, like their fucking 20-year-old patented forbidden jutsu Krabby Patty secret formula. So they've been living in that home for so long, I guess it's to be expected that they couldn't really nail something new on their first try. But it's definitely not cooked enough. This is still pretty raw. The research system could be fun, probably will be in the future if they ever attempt this again, but right now I just found it to be the most unfun part about the game because you had to research the Pokemon in order to progress in the main line. And let me tell you, the main quest line is horrible. The story is so trash even by Pokemon standards. I really wouldn't be surprised if this was written by the director's illiterate 4-year-old or something. Like, it is so bafflingly silly, nothing even connects. It's barely even coherent. By the end of the game, you're scratching your head wondering what the fuck is happening and why. Because all of a sudden things just start... I'm not going to spoil anything, actually. Scratch that. It's bad. The writing is terrible even by Pokemon standards, but I do appreciate that Game Freak wanted to deliver a powerful narrative. They did try and set up like a big, epic, the world's in peril and you're the only one that can save us. You're the chosen one from a different dimension. A fucking time-traveling Pokemon whispering guru, please save us. And of course it's Pokemon, you're not really expecting to get some kind of like the Homer's Odyssey kind of writing, you know, of course it was going to be like mainly for kids, but that doesn't mean it had to be shit. And trust me, it is shit. Dog shit. It is a load of ass, and it is so insultingly long in their cutscenes. And the cutscenes aren't even animated, it's just characters standing looking at each other with text boxes popping up. They didn't even bother to animate until the very end of the game. Everything else is just, it looks like a kid playing with action figures, and then text boxes. It's fucking horrible. And it is so much of text boxes and just characters staring. I hated it. But I like the idea of making a big Pokemon story out of it instead of the same generic, defeat the Elite Four, become the champion, yeehaw, woo, and that's it. I like that they tried something different there, but man, they did not do a good job. And another thing I see everyone mention, especially while I was streaming this game, is the lack of voice acting. I don't know what anyone was expecting. I guess everyone was doing fucking meth this week. There was definitely not a single thought that went through Game Freak's mind like, maybe we should have voice acting. They were never going to spend that much money on that. For some reason, even though Pokemon is the most profitable franchise of all time by a wide margin, literally the most money ever made by a franchise ever, for some reason their games have the lowest budget imaginable for AAA standards. It feels super cheaply made. It feels like they're afraid to allocate a big budget for their titles because they know it's going to sell no matter what, just because it's Pokemon. This game could have been nothing but a Google image of Rule 34 Pikachu, just his fat cock and balls, just one static image, and it still would have sold millions of copies. So it's not surprising there's no voice acting in this, and absolutely if there was, it would have helped the game, because the game's basically a visual novel when it comes to its story. It is very, very much just a full-blown visual novel, so if there was voice acting, it would have made it significantly less boring, because my god, I was actually falling asleep multiple times on stream going through the story missions. It was so mind-numbingly boring. Holy shit, I can't even begin to describe it. So yeah, voice acting would have helped, but there was never a chance that was going to enter into this game. I don't know why they're so afraid to go the extra mile for the Pokemon franchise games, but it is what it is. Game Freak just doesn't go that hard into making them something great. Hopefully they will, because I do think they put more effort into this title than they have in a long time. I feel like they really tried to get experimental and innovate, and to a certain level I think they succeeded in certain aspects of the game, but it's just not all there yet. The ingredients are there, but the recipe is borrowed from the worst food blog on the planet. They just need to refine it a bit more and make something delicious out of it. I think it can be something good in the future if they attempt this formula again, but right now, it's just not great. But I did overall enjoy my time with it, and I'm excited, more so now than ever, for the next Pokemon game to see where they go with it. I would be really disappointed if they went back to the same formula that they've had for the last 20 years. That would really be sad. But I'm optimistic they'll at least keep trying new things now. Another thing I'd like to point out about the game that I feel is a massive shortcoming is the side quests. I do think as a concept the side quests are nice. They could have been fun, and there are a couple fun ones, like there's one that guarantees you a shiny Ponyta. I enjoyed that. But overall, all the side quests are the same. You just go out, you catch a Pokemon, you catch 5 Pokemon, or you defeat a Pokemon, you go back to the village, and that's it. That's where the story ends. It's very bare bones, very generic, not a whole lot of thought given there. But again, that's one of those things where it's, hey, could be better. So plugging Pokemon Legends Arceus into the Moist Meter, I'm giving it a 60%. Like I said, I did enjoy it significantly more than Sword and Shield, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and I do think it's the right step for the Pokemon franchise. They're definitely going in the right direction. They just need a little more time to make something great, and I think this was a good prototype for that, I suppose, but it doesn't make the game any more fun. It's just now I can finally see some forward progress for what I considered to be a pretty stale franchise for its games. So yeah, overall, of course, you know, it doesn't look like a great game visually or anything. Yes, Pokemon Gale of Darkness for the GameCube looks about as good as this game, and that game came out over 15 years ago. I understand all of the critiques, and I do agree with the majority of them, but it's hard not to at least be excited that they're finally trying new things. It didn't all work here, but I do think that going forward, it can be something great for the games. And I didn't hate my time with the game. Towards the end, it got extremely boring, having to keep researching Pokemon and then sitting through 20 minutes of just text boxes. Yeah, I was absolutely miserable for a lot of that, but I still overall would say I enjoyed my experience with the game. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the new remake, remaster, reimagining of The Last of Us Part 1. So let's get down to business. The first Last of Us game is an absolute masterpiece and a damn near perfect story. This isn't any surprising information. If anyone's played The Last of Us, you absolutely remember it and will likely put it in your top 10 games of all time for good reason. But for the Moist Meter here, I'm kind of in a bit of a weird pickle because there's no real reason to talk about the game itself since it's the same game that released back in 2013, just with a lot of upgrades to its visuals as well as a couple of tweaks to its combat. But overall, the narrative, everything remains completely unchanged, and what more can possibly be said about The Last of Us that hasn't already been said? So instead of focusing on the actual game itself, I'm going to be focusing on all of the changes and upgrades that they brought to it. Now, this is the third time The Last of Us has been released. It came out initially in 2013, and then they had a remastered version in 2014, and now there is yet another remaster / remake, whatever you want to call it, now. Now, I don't like to call this a remake because I think that should be reserved for massive overhauls to the likes of like Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, those really big game changers where it's a lot of things like core gameplay, even story changes, like that. Those to me are full-blown remakes, whereas The Last of Us Part 1 is more in just like a really passionate remaster. There are a lot of things they did remake in terms of its visuals, like they rebuilt a lot of things to amplify it all, and I get that, but it's to me more of just like a really high-quality remaster. So the question is it worth $70? And my answer is no. I think it is extremely well done, but it's also highly unnecessary. Last of Us isn't even a 10-year-old game. You know, it still looks good, but it obviously looks better here. They put a lot of work into making the characters' faces more emotive. They look a lot better. Everything looks a lot cleaner, a lot more high resolution. Reflections actually pop. There's so much from a technical perspective that they have nailed. And if you've never played The Last of Us, then this is the optimal way of experiencing it. However, for anyone that has played the original or the remaster, I just don't see why this would be worth $70. It's a $70 visual upgrade. So if you really just got the itch to replay the game, then yeah, this is the way to do it. But $70 to me is just way too steep. This should have been 40 tops because they also took out the multiplayer. So this released with less content and a higher price tag than the original. You know, like to me, it just $70 isn't justifiable here. But yes, everything they added to it, I think, is pretty substantial. After having played it, you can really feel the difference. You can see the difference. The combat is significantly smoother. You know, the combat actually flows really nicely now. There's nothing janky or wonky about it. All of it just it's a much better experience. But it's still the same exact core game that has already been re-released once. You know, you're paying for the same thing a third time. It's kind of like in SpongeBob where King Neptune takes his first Krabby Patty and he's blown away. He's like, holy fuck, that's so good, I think I'll try it a second time. So he vomits it into his hand and eats it again. That's kind of this here, you know? It was so good the first time, I can't wait to have it a second time. And now we're going for thirds. I just don't think it warrants a $70 price tag, especially because they did remove multiplayer. Like, that was a big component of the first Last of Us game, and it's not here. And this is more expensive. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I understand they remove multiplayer because they're trying to do like a standalone multiplayer Last of Us experience. At least that's what I'm told. So I get it, but if you're going to do that, then have the price reflect that. You have taken a lot of content out now, content that people liked in the first Last of Us, when you're charging more. You should be charging less because you're giving less. The visual upgrades, again, are huge. Like, they're meaningful. It's not just a few pixels or a little upscaled resolution. They have completely overhauled certain things, and the faces especially stand out. Like, the faces really help amplify the story because you can see a lot more emotion on them. So, like, they did a great job visually, but it's not $70 texture pack worthy. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. To me, that just seems a bit greedy. If you're curious about how big of a difference it is graphically and visually, I would recommend looking at Digital Foundry's video that compares it to the others. It does a great job of highlighting just how impressive the improvements are. But even with all of that considered, it still doesn't make sense to me that this would be at $70. Now again, if this was at like the $30 to $40 price tag, I would have zero complaints. I would say this is fantastic and it does a great job of really bringing The Last of Us to next gen. And I think it is great for people that have never played it. I think this would be a really great way of experiencing it, but just not at the current price. That's really just my major complaint. And also the removal of multiplayer is a complaint as well. Even though I didn't get super into The Last of Us multiplayer scene back in the day, I still would have liked to experience it again in the modern age, but still. Overall, I think they accomplished their goal of delivering a really high quality Last of Us 1 remastered remake version. I think they really knocked it out of the park here. It is jaw-dropping what they've been able to do, and it's clear that a ton of work went into it, so I appreciate that, and I think they nailed it. I just think they missed the mark on how much it should be. So plugging The Last of Us Part 1 into the Moist meter, I'm giving it a nice 70%. The game itself it's a fucking 10 out of 10. Like, the actual Last of Us game, everyone already knows how incredible that game is, and everyone already knows how much I enjoy the first Last of Us game. It is so fucking good. But we're not talking about the game itself, we're talking about the changes, the visual upgrades, and everything here, which I do think absolutely slap. It's just, I think they needed to reevaluate what they're charging for it. So that's why it's at a 70%, but make no mistake, the actual Last of Us game is fucking amazing. So if you haven't played it, you definitely have to play it. And if you're just really itching for a replay through, this might be a good option if you've just got $70 laying around, I guess. But yeah, anyway, that's about it. See ya.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap. Issue 3 is out right now at godslapbook.com. You can find links below in the description. Go check it out.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Resident Evil 4 Remake, a very long anticipated title and one that I've been looking forward to as well. I think these Resident Evil remakes have been absolutely phenomenal. In fact, the second one is my favorite in the entire franchise. So, big shoes to fill here, though I do want to say Resident Evil 3 Remake is definitely the stinkiest of the bunch, but not because the game itself is bad, it's just like a 40-minute game. It's like playing a demo on the Xbox Live Marketplace. That game was criminally short. But aside from that blemish, they've been absolutely crushing this, so I had high expectations of number 4, and I'm happy to say that they were met. I didn't remember beating the original Resident Evil 4. I know I played it a few times, but I don't think I ever actually beat it. My brain was too small as a young toddler. I couldn't quite figure out how to complete the game, I guess, because I really didn't remember shit that happened past like the midpoint of number 4 here. So a lot of this was kind of just fresh and new to me, which I really appreciated. So I can't really compare a lot of what happens in the remake to the original, though I can say all of the quality of life improvements, such as all of the gameplay changes, are beyond welcomed. I accept those with open arms and a smile on my face. The gameplay in Resident Evil 4 Remake is super smooth and extremely fun. I think this is by far the best combat the franchise has ever had. Everything is silky smooth like my ass with powder on it. Everything works really well, flows nicely, and it's even pretty punishing. Even on standard mode, if you make a mistake, you will get slapped. Especially when there's like 2 or 3 enemies nearby. They'll lunge at you, they'll fucking dodge your shit like they're seeing into the future. It's pretty refreshing that it's not just like baby easy even when you just play through on normal. I know hardcore is absolutely like the ideal way to play, but I just kind of wanted to relax and enjoy the experience, which I did. So I played through my first playthrough on standard, and I had a great time doing it. The combat never got old, and it was always fun to strategize around like what kind of build I wanted to run, even though that's not the right word for it, because you don't really make a build. It's just deciding what you want to pour all your money into for upgrades. So I did the classic Red 9, so I boosted the fuck out of the Red 9, and then I did rifle and knife. And that's kind of what I ran with for the majority of the game. But the fun of Resident Evil 4 Remake is there's a lot more you can do as well, because they introduced these things called charms and cases that have special perks. So like, for example, the gold case, which I had, that's a case that gives you a bonus to money that you could find in the world, whereas the standard case gives you a bonus to handgun ammo you can find in the world. And then through the charm system, you unlock these tokens that are earned through playing mini games nearby the stranger that's selling all of this. So nearby the stranger, the merchant, you go downstairs in this elevator and you play these shooting gallery mini games, and the better you do, the more tokens you get, and you can spin those tokens on almost like a fucking gotcha game here. And you roll for these charms which attach to your case, and they have all kinds of rarities: common, rare, epic, and legendary. I got 2 epics and a legendary from doing all of the mini games, and a lot of dog shit. Some of them are truly worthless, but I had some bangers. So one of them, the legendary, gave me plus 8% running speed, which allowed me to dodge and evade more enemies and could plan out some better attacks. Another one I got was like a 5% discount on all weapon upgrades, and another one was a plus 20% chance to crit with melee. Like, it's just fun things that make the gameplay a little bit more deep. They add a little bit of depth to it, and I appreciated that. The gameplay was just super fun top to bottom. I think they absolutely fucking crushed it here. Now, moving on from gameplay, let's talk about the story. So, I didn't really remember shit from the Resident Evil 4 story, so most of this is new to me, and I'm gonna just be honest and upfront. I don't notice any changes from what I remember in the OG Resident Evil. A lot of the things that were there are still present here, such as the fucking lake monster and all of that. It just seems like they added more to it, like certain boss fights or certain characters, like Luis, for example, has more screen time than the original, I think. At least going off my memory. So it's just everything that I've remembered from OG Resident Evil 4 is still present here, but it does feel like they turned down the goofiness. They set that goofy dial from goofy to silly. Instead of like leaning into the campiness, it seems like they kind of shied away from it and made it more serious to take itself a little more seriously. And I think that's kind of detrimental, because some of the charm of Resident Evil 4 was the campy B-movie feel to a lot of what happens. And that's definitely not here. This is a game that is taking itself super seriously, and when they try to make a joke, it's not very good. A lot of their jokes fall super fucking flat here. Whereas I remember in the OG one, such as like if you tried to get like a look at Ashley's panties, she'd be like, "You pervert." Like that kind of shit is nothing big, but it's not here. It just added like a little bit of charm and silliness to it. Excuse me, goofiness, because that's a level above silly, that I just think helped elevate the experience. But it's not a big deal that it's not here, but it is something that I took notice of. But aside from that, it seems like the DNA from the OG Resident Evil 4 is still intact here, just expanded upon and fleshed out a bit more, which I do think is good overall. It seems like they added a lot more lore and a lot more character depth in this game, and it works pretty well for the most part, except for, like I said, the comedy doesn't really land. So I have no real complaints about the story or anything like that. I think visually the game looks fucking fantastic. I'm a huge fan of how these remakes have been presented. The presentation behind these, I think, is stellar. So there's a lot of like really action-heavy moments in these cutscenes where it's clear that they're self-aware with how over the top it is. So for example, during a knife fight with a boss you encounter, you're just doing this like almost Wing Chun-like movements, and you're like slapping at each other with a knife in your hand, and the camera's going kind of wacko mode on it. It's just fun. And then there's a helicopter pilot that you meet at some point who's helping you out, and he's like, "Drinks are on me, buddy." And then all of a sudden, a couple zombie bugs hit the helicopter, and he's like, "Oh shit," and blows up. And then in the flames walks the big bad. It's super cool. Like in the silliest, most self-aware way possible. And it just looks beautiful. The visuals are great, and the art direction is fantastic. So I just really don't have many complaints about the game at all, really. I guess if I had to like really start nitpicking, I'd say the puzzles are pretty brain dead. I don't know if that's because I played on standard mode. I don't know if the puzzles change. But I swear to God, some of these made me feel like I was back in elementary school on my fucking toy dinosaur learning about the ABCs. It was so stupid, you know, fit the rectangle shape into the rectangle hole half the time. So I don't really know why even bother putting those puzzles there in the first place when they're that simple. I imagine they might change in higher difficulties, but I'm not positive since I haven't done another playthrough yet. But I just wanted to point that out. Not a big deal, just a little bit of a nitpick. And another thing that is a bit of a nitpick, it is actually gameplay related. It seems like there's a bit of a buffer system, so from time to time, when I was engaged in like a pretty intense fight with multiple enemies, I try to do multiple movements, but only a couple of them would register, and then the other ones would register later. So for example, if I wanted to ADS, and then I wanted to crouch, I would do both inputs, but I might do them too quickly, so what would end up happening is I'd ADS, and then it'd stick there for like a full second before the crouch comes, when what I wanted was to ADS and then crouch to cancel out of it, to get out. So sometimes things would just hang there for a minute, and I don't know if it's because I was doing too many inputs too quickly, but it felt a little clunky in moments like that, though it wasn't very often. It's just during like a really intense fight when I'm trying to do multiple movements, or if I'm going into the inventory to pick up a grenade that I don't have on my like actual, you know, shortcut wheel. When I hit equip, there'd be like a full second or second and a half where I have to put away my gun, and then I'm making 2 additional movements before the grenade enters my hand. So it just felt a little unresponsive sometimes, but I don't know if that's just because I was inputting things like an absolute fucking coked out madman during the intense moments. So not a big deal because it didn't happen often anyway, but something I felt I might as well point out. Overall, though, I just don't have many real complaints for Resident Evil 4 Remake. I really enjoyed pretty much every single minute of it. Plugging it into the moist meter, I'm giving it a nice clean 90%. I fucking loved it. I think they did another great job here. And this is a much longer game. This is like, I think it took me 12, 13 hours to beat, something like that. So this does not suffer from the same problem Resident Evil 3 Remake had, where it was too short. This one feels just right, and there's even more content coming to it pretty soon, as I understand it. Plus, multiple playthroughs and, you know, unlimited ammo shit to strive for, charms. There's just a lot of replayability to it, so very, very satisfied with Resident Evil 4 Remake, and yeah, that's about it. As most of you know, we started our own comic book series called God Slap. Everyone who's read God Slap so far has unanimously agreed that it's the best comic ever produced, and God Slap is well on its way to becoming the biggest name in all of comics, overthrowing Marvel within the next 5 years, according to recent scientific projections that I'm pulling out of my ass. It's a passion project created by myself, Jackson, Danny, and Matt, and we brought in an industry veteran named Aubrey Sitterson to help write it with us, and we're extremely proud of what we've created. Issue 1 and 2 are already out, and Issue 3 came out today, as of right now. Issue 3 is available at godslapbook.com, and per usual, this is the standard cover, but we also have 2 limited edition variants, which will only exist until they're sold out, and they'll never be reprinted. So they're available at godslapbook.com.